Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Underhood Show presented by Mel Hambelton Ford. My name is Phil Nightingale. And good morning, Josh.
Good morning.
Hey, we're at a different location today, aren't we?
We are.
Yes, we are at Bar to Bar. An exciting time out here for the motocross guys. We've got a, Scott, what's it called again? It's
Mega Camp.
Mega Camp.
Mega Camp.
Anyway, it's just Scott. And Scott, I have a hard time pronouncing your last name. I'm so sorry.
Scott Gebkin.
Gebkin.
There you go.
And we have Jeff.
That's right. Crutcher is my last name.
Crutcher. And
Yeah.
does that match that leg?
Yes, it does.
We'll get to more details about that here
Go hand
shortly.
in hand.
But we're here at Bar to Bar, and Scott is putting on a great clinic to help riders get better, right?
Yeah, so this is our 4th year doing this, and we and it's just grown like crazy. We've I think the first camp we did was 3 coaches and it was 20 riders, and then now we're at 4 coaches and right at 60 riders, something like that.
Very cool.
Roster. So it's grown big time. And what we do is we've got 3 full days of training that we start with the basics and work our way all the way to the advanced, and we break it down into bike sizes, and we cover all the techniques and the basics of how to go faster on a dirt bike.
Well, I'd have to be in the 101 class where I'd have to be, okay?
100.
The 100 class. So it's a 3-day event, and today we're kicking it off. It looks like we've got some riders getting on the track to get ready to go, and 4 coaches.
We have 4 coaches. So it's myself, Jeff Crutcher. We have Brad DePringer. He's out of Iowa. And then we have Brent Rouse, who's out of California, now Arkansas. We've all raced professional over the last couple of years. Brent is still racing professional this year. He will join the Pro Tour next weekend in Colorado. And
nice.
He's missing the first round to be here. We've all done it quite a few years, and we like coaching, and it's good to give back, you know.
Well, fantastic. It's a great partnership we have with Bar to Bar, of course, with the Hoosiers and the race fuel and everything we try to help provide with the riders and stuff, too. We're going to have some great prizes you're going to be giving away here later today, tomorrow, Monday, or Sunday, whatever it is from that part. But that's why we're here, because we love the sport, helping out the motocross guys. And again, I got to be maybe it's the 99 class, you know, so I need to be, because I know I can get on and ride a bike and everything else like that, but to do all these jumps and do all the different stuff, out of my league, totally out of my league. So let's tell the listeners a little bit. It's probably too late to get in, right?
It's too late to get in. Yes,
okay.
The registration closed on Friday.
So what will happen today? What will happen tomorrow? Kind of give our listeners a little bit of an idea what they're going to do and what's going to happen. And
yeah, so today is obviously registration time. We're getting them to meet all of our vendors, all of our partners, all of our sponsors that came on and joined the camp. We will start the day with just a warm-up. We're going to let the bike, we'll break them into groups. We'll let them out on the track, break the track in, and just kind of get the flow of it. And then we will spend a lot of time today working on technique, the proper way to ride the bike. They're probably going to get bored listening to us talk all day because we just go over so many details. Like you said, You can ride the bike, but navigating all of the terrain, the jumps, all of that kind of stuff, there's a lot of pieces that go into it. And so we'll spend a lot of time this morning working on that. And then we will, what we found works best is we break the track into like 4 different sections. And so each coach will have a section. We'll break the whole camp into 4 groups, and each group will rotate through, and we work on different stuff as we go. So,
all right. Well, anyway, gentlemen, just so you know, this is a call-in show that we have people that call in things about their car that they don't understand how their car works and all that kind of stuff. So that part we do know. We're not 101 in that deal, okay? But anyway, if anybody's listening has a question about motocross or anything that's going on out here at Bar to Bar, and each and every caller gets a great prize package, about over $130.
Oh wow!
Just to call in the show. So our listeners, we call in and they usually have something that's wrong with their car. We talk about MH Ford Racing, or we talk about the new products or whatever. But today, listeners, it's about, and watchers, I should say, it's about what's going on here at Bar to Bar. So if you got questions about motocross, anything whatsoever, we're going to give each one of those callers the same price package. And Josh, tell everybody again what's in that price package for each and every caller.
So we're going to mail it out to them, but it's going to consist of the works, which is an oil change and tire rotation. We use Motorcraft oil and filter products at Mel Hambelton Ford. While we're doing that, we're also going to complete a multi-point inspection on the vehicle, checking over the brakes, tires, steering, suspension, making sure everything is ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving. They'll also receive $10 to Mel's Diner so they can get something to eat and drink while they're there with us at the big corner. Complete nitrogen for your tires, so you get all the great benefits that nitrogen has to offer. And then a BG products package, which is going to consist of a can of MOA or motor oil additive for your engine oil, and then a can of CF5 for your fuel system. Again, just getting that vehicle geared up and ready to go for that next 5,000 miles of driving. So.
All right, so let's get the phones. We're going to 316-462-3673. That goes right into the main dealership, and they'll patch you into us here at the radio show out here at Bar to Bar. And let's get the phones ringing. Any questions you want? Again, if you want to talk about some automotive, I guess we can do that too, right, Josh?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, gentlemen, earlier this week, Thursday, Josh and I and Jake, my son who sells for us, we went down to Austin, Texas, Horseshoe Bay, and got to see the new Bronco.
Okay.
So talk about 101 there, off-roading and stuff that we never done there too. But I'm sure a lot of that same kind of thing goes into play here that we learned on driving a car instead of riding on a bike. Different things we saw. That new Bronco is going to be cool and everything else too. So, Jeff, how long have you been riding?
Since 1995.
So just a little bit, right?
Yeah, I've got a few years under my belt. And what's interesting is between the 4 coaches of us, we have almost 100 years of racing. Yeah, together.
That's very cool. Very cool. So you got 60 to 70 riders, you said?
Yeah, should be right at 60 riders.
Right at 60 riders, and ages range for
from 4 to, we have a couple vet guys that are easily in their 60s.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, we got a couple older guys that signed.
Of course, I wonder how long. Of course, maybe they've been riding a long time. Maybe not. Maybe they took it up in a later age or something.
You know, we run into all the time. We've got some older guys that, you know what, I want to get into this and start doing it. My parents never let me do it when I was a kid, and you know what, I'm doing it now. Or, and we've got guys that have just done it for years and just never stepped away from it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we're sitting here. I was out here. When was that, Josh? Last fall. It's always cold around here. But it blows me away to watch the little guys and everybody flying over these hills and stuff and everything else too. But I know it's just natural to them. But it's fun to see what you're going to do with these kids and how much better they probably be. I bet as each hour probably progresses, you see these guys change and adapt and get better, don't you?
Yeah, from the time we start this afternoon or this around 10 o'clock when we get going from the time we end on Monday, we've had kids gain over 10 seconds on a lap, or if not more, probably. Yeah. I think we've even a couple kids that have gained more per lap just on learning the right technique and how to get around the track a lot faster. Yeah,
exactly. So, Jeff, what part of the track do you get?
Usually I get stuck in the back section over here, which you know, is not by any specific design. So I race here all the time. Anytime Bar to Bar has a race,
You're here.
Yeah.
So what size of bike do you ride?
I ride 250s and 450s.
2 and 4s.
Yep.
How much difference is there between that 2 and that 4? I mean, is it like night and day, or is it?
You know, the main difference between the two, I mean, typically like lap times are almost identical.
Really?
Yes. 250s are a lot easier to ride at speed for a longer duration because the motorcycle weighs less. There's less engine in the bike. A 450 produces a lot more torque, which makes it a lot harder to ride. So you have to use a little more finesse, a little more
talent.
Yeah. You know, some guys that have no talent are really good at riding those bikes too. All gas, no brains.
Heavy on the right hand.
Yeah. But for me, I'm more of a small bore guy. Like I like the smaller engine. I like to feel like I'm completely in control of the bike.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas the 450 is a lot of bike for me. But every time that I'm here, whenever we race, I'm always really good in the back section of the track.
So that's why you're there, to tell everybody kind of what your technique is and what you do. And
correct. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's back there. And there's, you know, outside of what we call the 5 magics of the motorcycle, which is the clutch, the front brake, the throttle, the shifter, and the rear brake, is being able to master those 5 controls also while going fast on the track. And there's a lot of times where it's really easy to kind of slouch, you know, because you're thinking about, you know, racing or whatever, you know, instead of constantly attacking every inch on the track. And in that section back there, you know, once we go over this main jump number 2 here, everything in the back, there's a lot of room, a lot of space.
A lot of space and stuff too. You know, my son and I dirt track race, and it's when you talk about the big motors and stuff too, that's where everybody thinks you got to have a big 400 cubic inch motor to get going and stuff. And people would die if they knew how big the motor was in Jake's car, because you get those big motors, you can't control it.
Yeah,
right. You're not as good. You're not smooth through every corner and accurate and keeping the momentum going and stuff like that too. And you don't need those big honking motors. And same things you said, the lap times are about the same.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes down to rider preference, or in your guys' case, driver preference.
Yeah.
I mean, setup is really important, you know, for you guys especially, but then for us, it's, you know, what are you more comfortable on? And there's a lot of guys that they don't even have 450s. They ride 250, 250cc motorcycles exclusively.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and they still, you know, are very competitive and stuff. I mean, it's kind of like bringing a knife to a gunfight on the start.
Yeah.
Because the 450 produces so much torque, so much power. You know, I mean, the difference is, I mean, typically 250s are making what, 45
40-ish,
horsepower, and then the 450s are north of 60. So
Okay.
what's wild though is that like we're almost doubling the CCs. But
Doesn't give you double the horsepower.
exactly, that's correct. The main difference is the torque.
So, guys, we'll come back to this here in just a second, but we got a caller on the line.
Oh, that's
here.
it.
So,
All right.
Jason, you're on live with Under the Hood. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Happy Saturday to you guys. Thanks for taking my call. Quick question, though. I have a 2015 GMC Acadia, and it did a weird thing the other day. It just shut down. The traction control light came on and everything. And for what I Googled and everything about it, it sounds like it might be the range selector switch in the transmission. And I didn't know if you guys diagnosed that kind of stuff, if you worked on that kind of stuff, or what my options are.
Well, yeah, to answer your question, yes, we do work on all makes and all models from that side of things. So go into a little more detail on what you're experiencing. You're getting a traction light, and what else?
Well, it only happened once. And when I got the owner's manual out, it said it's a transmission problem. So when I shut the car off, let it sit for 20 seconds and restarted it, it reset itself. But I went by and had the code checked, and it did, from what they read off the code, it did say range selector switch needed replaced. The bad thing about this model is it's internal in the transmission.
Yeah, which is not necessarily the end of the world. It's not super hard to replace that by any means. As far as the display, so where it says on the indicator on the dash, where it says that you're in park or reverse or neutral or drive, that's indicating okay.
Yes.
On the cluster,
it has. Yeah, it only happened once, but like I said, when I went to have the code diagnosed, that's what they came up with.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do, we'll mail out a package to you, but then I'm also going to include a diagnostic onto your package as well, and we'll take a look at that at no charge to you and figure out just exactly what's going on. Now, if it's not actually acting up now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we wouldn't be able to see what's going on with it. There should be some historical data in the computer system that we could work off of and see maybe what was going on.
That was going to be my next question. Since the code did come on, does the computer hold that code?
It will on some codes. It will hold information and data, and kind of what happened and when and why. One of the things too I see a lot of people do is it'll come on and then they'll take it to a parts house store and have the code scanned and for whatever reason clear the code. And man, if from a technician side of things, any historical data that you can keep in there to go off of is always much better. So yeah, there are a lot of cases where you can work off of the data that you receive from that thing. So, but we'll get that added onto your package as well and take a look at that and see if we can figure out what's going on with it for you. Okay.
I trust you guys. You guys done a lot of work for me in the past. I'm very happy with you guys. And I'm sorry it's a GMC, but my wife's not a Ford fan, but I am. So,
well, like I said, all makes, all models, and we'd be happy to look at it for you. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. So I appreciate you. You guys have a good weekend. Thank you for taking the call.
Have a good one. Thanks, Jason.
It's my impression that with GMs, you just drive it until it fixes itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of people that think that. But I guess I want to tell them not to, but then also I want a job too.
Yeah.
So keep on driving that puppy, I guess. I don't know.
I had a 99 Silverado that was the engine that had the plastic intake manifold on it.
Yep.
And it cracked.
Yep.
And so it was leaking air into the engine block, which, as you know, made the engine extremely lean.
Yep.
So what does the computer do? It starts pouring more fuel in.
Yeah.
Well, it made my truck really fast. So it was a quick mod.
Yeah.
It didn't cost me hardly anything. But it was the ultimate destruction of the engine.
Yeah, I did try to destroy it too, didn't it?
It was fast for a little while.
I did sell it before it totally blew up on me, and I felt sorry for the kid I sold it to. But I told him, I was like, "Hey, this thing's fast."
It's been my experience that things typically run the very best just before they blow up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, let me ask you this. He was describing the the range selection. What was he saying?
So it's a range selector. So basically, it's the electronic component in the transmission that indicates what gear it's in.
Okay,
is
so
what that does.
what is a range inhibitor?
A range inhibitor.
Is that a thing?
Is it like a flux capacitor?
Yeah, flux capacitor.
I bet there's one that would enable you to or keep you from putting it into a gear.
Okay, so the reason that I asked this is I was a FedEx
Look, you're
guy.
not getting the package here. Okay? You gotta call him. No,
I was a FedEx guy for 10 years, and there was a lot of times in these old internationals that I my fleet was one of them. A light would come on all the time that said range inhibit or range inhibitor, and I never knew what it was, but it made the truck run pretty poorly whenever that thing would come on. And it was a mystery of turning the truck on and off and shifting it in and out of neutral. And on these old internationals, it was reverse neutral drive.
yeah.
And the fun part about that truck is that it would start in gear, and it was an automatic. And it was great because I pulled up to a stop and I would turn the truck off before I was even stopped. And as soon as, my momentum was done, I just pulled the handbrake, and the truck's, it's still in gear and off. And I'd have the handbrake pulled, run the stop. All I had to do was just, hit the ignition and slap that handbrake down, put my foot in the throttle, and we're off to the next stop.
You're saving 20 seconds per stop.
20 seconds to stop. Yeah. But yeah. So if your packages were late, it wasn't my fault. I can tell you that.
And he did that all the way up until the first day his boss rode with him.
Now that's when I got a productivity bonus.
Anyway, we're at Bar to Bar, having fun out here with these guys, getting ready for mega camp, right?
Mega camp, yes, sir.
We're going to learn. These riders are going to learn all new kinds of techniques and stuff. And Scott, what's happening out here? I guess you call it the front stretch is what I would call it, but I'm not sure that's the right
so
thing.
this is the start stretch. The
start stretch,
straightaway.
okay.
Courtney Staton's with Moto Mom Media. She runs photography, does all kinds of different things like that. And right now, part of the package of when you sign up for Mega Camp is you get a portrait photo. Almost never anywhere do riders get any type of professional photography that is a portrait style photo. That's something Courtney wanted to offer for this. And you probably see it a lot in race cars, actually, with their sponsors and everything. Well, this is a great opportunity that they can take it, put it into their resume, send it to emails to sponsors, hang it on the wall, whatever they want to do with it. Last year was the first time we did this, and it turned out super well. The
line's been crazy since we were standing here talking and stuff too. That's why I thought maybe it was a bike inspection or something, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, we probably should do that, but we don't. And but she's getting good photos of everybody, and it's something really cool we were able to add to the package, and just something that makes Mega Camp kind of one of its own, and gives it kind of a little bit of character, something you get to take with you.
That's right. Another thing I'd kind of like to roll into, because right now I've been texting my son. We raced last night, and we're getting ready to go today again. Tonight we're going to race again, and we're getting the car all set up and ready, and it's a lot of maintenance and stuff. How much maintenance is there on a bike? Is there a lot of maintenance on a bike too?
There's a lot of maintenance on a bike. Pretty much. So you go out and you ride, you do your moto, 15 minutes, however long it is that you're racing. And by the time you come back in, you're adjusting the chain, making suspension adjustments, same kind of stuff you would do in a car, topping off the fuel. That's what you're kind of doing during the race day. If you fall, something you got to fix, just like getting run into in a car or something like that. But then you're doing oil changes after every race, or at least before every race.
Changing oil. Yeah.
A lot of people will go. So if you're practicing during the week, the kind of rule of thumb, a lot of people go they'll go 3 rides between oil changes. I change mine pretty much every time I ride the bike.
Cheap insurance.
Insurance, absolutely. And oil's a whole lot cheaper, and it's a lot more accessible than spending $1,000 on a rebuild or something like that.
That's like I hear guys race cars and race motors. They'll say, I change every third night or every second night. Every race that plus. Like we got back from last night, it's first thing we put in here and drain the oil.
Right, absolutely. And a big part of it too is track conditions. If you're riding a really muddy, deep track where you're just beating on that engine the whole time, you definitely want to take some extra time to go through everything.
Okay, so when you go out for a moto, and I'm trying to kind of comparing this to dirt track racing, we go out and do a hot lap, kind of just warm up and stuff. And we bring the car back in, and we're taking tires off and checking everything over, doing a nut and bolt check. We might even change tires again, that kind of thing. Again, topping off fuel, charging the battery. What kind of things go on in between like a motor? Like you go out and practice, and what happens like your pit stalls?
My first question is for you guys, is it 4 Hoosiers and a can of VP fuel?
So you nailed it right on the head. Nailed it right on the head, buddy.
Right. Yeah. For us, there's a lot of more so just like a mental checklist.
Oh yeah, I say
Because-
it's 95% mental set behind the
Absolutely.
handlebars of the
yeah,
wheel.
because so much of it, we're giving a lot of. We don't have a roll cage,
Yeah.
and there's no safety harness. So there's a lot of small things that can turn into really big problems at
Yeah.
really unopportune times.
Yeah.
And the most probably missed one of that we see, which can cause a catastrophe, is like checking sprocket bolts.
Yeah, sprocket bolts are huge.
It's a huge deal because that's your
Okay.
drive line. That's everything. And
Yeah.
a lot of people will forget that or just don't check it or don't know they need to check it. And kind of like you
Yeah.
were saying, it's safety. You
And
want to
it's-
check that one.
and it's one of those things where like when guys like us that have been doing it for a really long time, we've learned that mistake, or we've
You learn by it.
or our friends have made that mistake, and you'll see somebody where the sprocket bolts start to come loose and it just shears the whole thing off of the hub, throws the sprocket into the swing arm, and all of a sudden you're out $1,000 because of poor maintenance
Yeah.
over something that literally takes 15 seconds to check.
Just to check it, make sure.
And
it's
I mean, you just check 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 bolts on
Yep.
every big bike, and I mean, it's such a small thing.
so
that
those
we
come
do.
loose very often, is what you're trying
Because
to say.
there's so much torque that's
Torque
being
on it.
converted from that sprocket to the hub. I mean, those 6 bolts are essentially everything.
Yep.
And so because of that, I mean, you got to take a lot of care over little stuff like that. Then the small accessory bolts and just little fasteners here and there, tire pressure. A lot of the suspension is air suspension now. So the front
Really,
forks.
air suspension.
Yeah, that's correct. So like on the KTM, Husky, Gas, and Suzuki, I believe.
No, well, I think they've gone away from it.
They've kind of
Suzuki
gone
used to-
back and forth, yeah. So what's funny is air suspension came from, we tried it in motocross in the 70s. Didn't really work out, but then they continued to develop it on the road racing side. So there's a lot of the Japanese manufacturers where they have air suspension, both front and rear, on the motors on their street bikes.
Wow.
And
I
then
didn't know
they
that.
transferred that stuff over to motocross, and the reason for it is because it's lighter weight. There's
No oil. The oil's light.
That's correct. There's no oil. The
So you use
springs-
nitrogen in them, or
No, just straight air.
really?
Yeah,
really,
just regular air.
really compressed air.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah. Because the thing is like we're doing so much fine tuning to it because you do have to maintain it, and like nitrogen does change pressure with the air as the temperature changes. The hard part is not everybody has a nitrogen
Yeah.
tank in their truck.
Yeah.
So like we have these little hand pumps, to
what
dial
kind of
in.
pressure do you put them in those? Has everybody got a different feel for that pressure?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
absolutely. So like the baseline setting is actually measured in bar. So it's 10.5 bar is what you want to dial the bike in. And then I use PSI because it's a finer tuned number. And like it varies somewhat track to track. Like if we're talking about like a really smooth track, I may go a little bit lower on air. If we're talking about a really rough track, I'll add a little bit of air. For me, I think that my Racetech JHU suspension recommends somewhere around like 150 PSI.
150.
Yeah,
Okay.
150. So, and that's only in one fork too.
Yep.
So they are a separate function fork. One is for damping, one is for rebound.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then also additionally, the first part of the stroke is controlled by air. The second part of the stroke is controlled by spring and oil. And then conversely, on the opposite end, the return back out is controlled by oil and spring, and then by air. So there's 2 different ways that the
How it's set up.
that the front end. Yeah,
See, we on the dirt cars kind of the same way. We run high nitrogen,
Mhm.
but we have same thing, oil and gas, and
Yeah.
we do adjust those pressures depending on track conditions, rough,
Mhm.
hard. And we've gotten to where we just change shocks instead of trying to mess with pressures
Yeah,
and stuff
right,
too, is
yeah.
what we do. But I know that's probably not as easy on a bike, but man, it seems very simple to make a quick adjustment.
yeah. I mean, it's as simple as taking off the cap. A WP includes a pump that you attach to the bike, and just give it a couple pumps and reset the air. And I mean, really, it's more or less keeping up with the ambient air temperature and pressure to match, ensuring that you have a steady air pressure. But the thing is with air, you want to have a baseline setting that you pretty much stick to and work around. I mean,
Yep.
the same thing is like nobody's coming off of the track and thinking, man, I wish I had 5cc more oil in my fork. And you would never take the cap off and put more oil in the fork. So there's no real reason to adjust that air pressure on race day. You need to have a baseline setting that you've figured out, and then work around that with rebound and compression clicking, but not off of air adjustment. There's a lot of people, and that's a lot of the reason that the air on the Japanese bikes have gone away because the consumers didn't like it because it was too high maintenance.
Too high
Yeah.
maintenance, try to
That's
figure.
me. I don't run it. I ride Hondas, and
Yeah.
we've got a spring fork in them, and I could never get the air to work the way I wanted it to, and it's
Yeah.
probably because I spent so much time growing up on the spring fork, and then I've tried the air forks on different brand motorcycles, and I could just never get it to work quite right
So
for me.
let me ask you this, because I don't think we've ever talked about it. Was it that you felt like the front was packing?
It was a lot of that, and it was just very harsh. To me, it unbalanced the bike and made it very unpredictable, which took a lot of it made me, I felt like I had to over control with my hands and arms
Yeah.
than I normally would with my legs. And I just could not. It lots of testing and time on it, and I just couldn't get it the way I liked it.
So an interesting point, what Scott just said there, was controlling the bike with your hands, which a little known fact about racing motocross and all motorcycles is you actually control the bike with your legs, not with your hands.
Really?
And that's something that we have
That's
to
one of the techniques you're going to teach these kids
absolutely,
today.
yes, yeah. So like that's a major part is you think, well, because it has handlebars, that's how you hold on to the bike. But truly, because if you think about it, you've got the triple clamp that holds the front end of the bike up. The steering stem is what you use. I mean, you very rarely are you like turning the bars to control the bike. So much of it is lean, pitch,
Okay.
yaw, roll, whatever you want to call it. So as the bike comes over, naturally gravity pulls it in and makes the bike corner. Whereas you don't turn the bars to steer the bike, you lay it over to get the bike to steer. And so because of that,
And then are you using the throttle too?
oh,
on off
absolutely.
to-
Yep. Yeah. So because of that, the bike, as you lay it over, you're not controlling the front end with your hands. You're more or less just resting your hands on the bars.
Yeah.
And then you control the rest of the motorcycle, the weight of the motorcycle, everything past that steering point, that steering stem is controlled with the legs.
So the comment that people make, oh, well, you just sit on it and twist the throttle, like you just sit on it and twist it. Like no. It's much more detailed than that, much more complicated. And I mean, I always say, just to turn a dirt bike on a motocross track, you're doing 50 different things just to make that happen, all depending on where your eyes are, how your hands are on, the angle of your hands, how your feet are, where exactly your foot is on the foot peg. It's all little details, and you have to master these details, the 5 controls of the motorcycle, before your speed really is going to come on.
That makes sense.
That falls into the question we got here. Actually, it says, when training riders, do you think people overlook the cornering aspect because so many people want to jump for the show?
Well, the opposite end of that is corners for dough.
Yeah, right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, jump for show, corner for dough. And cornering is where the races are won. It's the jumps. I mean, there's certain points in skill levels and things like that where jumps do separate guys or do make a difference, but that needs to be last on the list of the things that you work on. Cornering is where you make up your time. That's where you can make passes, all of that kind of stuff, because there's always more turns than there are jumps on the track. Maybe unless you're riding a supercross, a stadium, things like that, but it's still way more important to be getting through the turns and the corners a lot faster.
So to tie our two sports together, let's bring up Clint Boyer.
Yep.
So Andy, his brother, is a really good friend of mine, and Andy has told me many stories about whenever they were growing up as little kids, the two of them would go out riding. Clint was a very active motocross rider.
Was he really?
Yes, he was. And 10 out of 10 times, Clint had Andy in the corners.
Mm-hmm.
He was a far better cornerer than Andy was. Andy will jump anything.
Yeah,
he will.
But then Clint, he didn't like jumping. Wasn't a big fan of it. And so that, Andy excelled at motocross, and then Clint got in a car.
Yeah.
And so he took his cornering experience from motocross and applied that to four wheels.
Back in the 90s, I raced against Clint in Topeka.
Yeah.
In a dirt car.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Small world,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So,
But to this person's question is absolutely. I mean, it's 100% corners, and like Scott said, and a little known thing about motocross is rear wheel steer. Is so much of the bike is controlled with the rear wheel and with the throttle. So the more of an ace you are with throttle control, the faster you're going to be able to go on the track, just out of smoothness.
Yep.
And it's really not that different from racing. Think about how you control a jet ski.
Okay.
Is you can turn the handlebars, and the thing if you're not on the gas,
It ain't
you're
going.
just going to coast forward.
Yep.
And similar with
learned that
motocross.
the other day.
And so similar with motocross is there's so much rear wheel steer of compacting the bike down, because the lower the bike is to the ground, the more steady and controllable it is. Whenever you let off the throttle, the bike unloads. Same thing with a car.
Same with the dirt car.
Yeah. And so because of that, you have to, I mean, like, and a big thing, Scott, got on me about this. I attended one of the schools because, again, even as a pro rider, you still need constant coaching. And
it's a constant training thing, isn't it?
Oh,
it's about everything.
Absolutely.
And I don't care what industry you're in. We talk about our techs, we talk about our salespeople, we talk about even Jake in the dirt car.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly training.
I mean, think about Major League Baseball players.
Yeah.
How many coaches they have,
Yeah.
throughout their career. You're always being coached. Like, it never ends.
Right. And a big part of it too is a lot of people will overlook the cornering aspect because it's not that fun. Like, it's jumping stuff is way cooler. You know what I mean? You feel way cooler. It's a little bit more of an adrenaline bust when you're jumping 100 feet or whatever. But the cornering, it's so detailed and it takes time and effort to get it right. And a lot of, we're motocross riders. We're kind of all over the place. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on. And so, getting guys to calm down and get those details dialed in when they just want to hammer the gas or go jump the big jump. A lot of when they're younger, you notice it more where they just want to go instead of, hey, we gotta bring it back a little bit. Let's get this technique dialed in, and then next thing you know, you'll be jumping and have way more control and be a lot faster.
And to that point, one of the things that we really have to stay on top of our riders here at the Mega Camp is, really pulling back the reins on them and saying, hey, guys, we got to pump the brakes because we're here to learn. Mm-hmm. We're not here to go fast. Whenever you learn today, you'll take that and apply that to race day or practice day or testing.
To get faster.
And then you'll get faster by applying these techniques, these new ways of riding that we're here to instruct.
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a controlled chaos is getting guys to just pump the, I should say guys and girls, because we have lots of girl riders too. But it can be difficult at times getting people to just take a step back, ride at 80%.
Yep.
And and like what Scott said, it can be hard to get people to focus on the corners because that is where the races are won and lost. But it doesn't look cool. I mean, let me put it this way.
To us, it does.
No guy has ever made a match on Tinder from photos of them on a corner. It's always the jumps.
It's always the jumps. That's right.
Anyway, we're at bar to bar. Talking with Scott. God, I'm so terrible.
Gebkin.
God dang it. Sorry.
We'll get there. It's all right.
Get there. And Jeff, I forgot your last name. I'm terrible.
Crutcher.
Yeah,
Crutcher. I know I should know that.
We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet, but we need to probably talk about that. But again, safety is another thing. And Josh and I were talking before this. We were talking about a gentleman that got injured out here a month ago, whatever it was. And, you can put all the safety gear on stuff too, but there's still that risk out there. But I'm sure there's a lot of safety things and techniques you teach everyone out here today and tomorrow and Sunday on just safety, right?
That's a big part of it. So actually, I'm a safety director in my day-to-day, like Monday through Friday job. So that's what I do for a living. And then a big part of it is safety is really when it comes to a camp like this is organization and making sure. I mean, we have rules and all kinds of stuff that these guys have to follow. So everybody's headed in the right direction, where we don't have things like that. They go when we tell them when to go. Different things like that are aspects of just obviously organization of it happening. But when these riders learn the technique we're going to teach them, it gives them way more control of the motorcycle, which then their safety factor just goes up by being able to control the bike and knowing how to handle it and maneuver it in the correct way, because it's all on how your body positioning is on the motorcycle. Depends on what that motorcycle is going to do. So that's a big, big part of it. The safety gear, there's all kinds of stuff going around on the internet right now about less safety gear is safer and all this different stuff. We even disagree on some of it, or just different conversations. And really, it's whatever it's so individual. It's an individual sport. It's what you feel comfortable with. And what's going to make you feel more comfortable is going to give you more confidence, which in turn is going to let you have be a safer rider.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a call-in show, 316-462-3673. You get a great price package. If you want to talk about the automobile world, we get that. But we're here to talk about motocross today. So let's get the phones ringing, 316-462-3673. Gentlemen, we just get a lot of calls and stuff, but it seems like whenever we go off base, people just like to sit back and watch and listen and don't really call that much. But so don't feel.
So I kind of want to go back to the 250, 450. So what is the EPA doing to do away with two strokes? I mean, how's that working? It's
funny that you bring that up, because motocross was dominated by two strokes for the late 70s, all the 80s, all of the 90s, and then in 98 was it the first YZ4?
98 was the first year of really where they redesigned them, and Yamaha came in and changed the game.
That's right. Yamaha introduced the YZ400, and the reason for it is they wanted to get ahead of the curve in emissions because the two strokes, I mean, just like anybody that has a weed eater or anything like that at home, you mix oil into the gas, so there's smoke because of the oil. So the common misconception is that it's a dirtier, exhaust. Well, the manufacturers, the Japanese specifically, wanted to get ahead of that conception, and then obviously as we progress through time, it's all about green energy now is what we call it. And so in motocross and off-road as a whole, the manufacturers started gearing up for building four strokes. Reason being, it boils down to no oil in the gas. So it is perceived as being a cleaner burning, fuel.
But is it?
No. Either way, you're burning, you're burning fossil fuel, whether there's oil in it or not. It's just the perception of smoke, And so, two strokes are still a thing, and honestly, they've bit of a comeback because the four strokes are getting so expensive.
They're so expensive. So in '98 they came in and changed the game, and there was only a couple of them out there. And then in 2001, I think, is when a couple other brands came out, and then through the early 2000s, every real motorcycle manufacturer started making competitive four-stroke bikes, and the whole game has changed that way, except for on the mini bikes. All your mini bikes are mostly still two strokes on the racing side. Now you still have the four-stroke trail bikes, but they the performance is so much higher on the four strokes now, what they used to not be in the 70s and 80s. And but with more performance comes more expense, and they're just way more expensive.
So you think that's kind of the main difference as far as the two is the expense of the product, or performance wise, because you can get relatively similar performance out of each of them, and weight wise and stuff like that? Or
I still ride a 252 stroke. Now, I mean, I race for Cycle Zone KTM, and they've put me on a 250F and a 454 stroke. I have a 252 stroke that I ride and race. To me, the performance difference. Okay, so you race CC versus CC.
Okay.
Many years ago, it was 125 and 250 when we were just racing exclusively two strokes. Then Yamaha introduced the 400 and the AMA, which is the sanctioning body of a lot of the professional racing and then the large amateur events. The AMA said, well, we can put the 400 in the 250 class because they were making about the same horsepower. Yeah. The difference, again, is the torque. And that they were just like, well,
whatever you want, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, right. And so they put the 400 in, and then eventually all the manufacturers started. Yamaha innovated and made a 250cc four stroke, and then they started putting that in with the 125 class, and that was where it all ended, because I mean 125 two strokes. I mean they make peak horsepower at like 12,000 RPM. Yeah. Whereas the four strokes, I mean, it's
you guys turn that many RPM?
Oh yeah. And now the 254 strokes, peak HP is between 11 and 13.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I had no idea you turn that many RPM.
Yeah. And so and because of that, and really I'm a big KTM guy, and
I'm a big Honda guy.
Yeah. And so we go around and around.
But yes, I get the Ford Chevy thing. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In motocross, KTM developed with help of a handful of. It was actually McLaren with their Formula One team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they hired McLaren to build a 250cc race engine for them, and the thing made peak horsepower at 14,000 RPM.
So a lot of the design in the new four-stroke dirt bikes, it comes kind of from the IndyCar world. That's where a lot of this stuff came from. Was kind of came over from that, and they rev way high and way high in the RPMs, things like that.
Yeah. Talking about rev and RPM, them 4v1 cars. Gee. Yeah. I think we got a call or two, right?
Yeah,
Josh?
we do. We're getting them patched through. So.
Getting patched through and stuff too. So anyway, we're at Bar to Bar at the Mega Camp, and we got lots of riders out here right now and getting ready to go. They're getting their pictures taken, getting ready to go. So let's kind of go through the days here. That's Delbert's getting on here, right, Josh?
Mhm.
So what happens after 10 o'clock today?
So right after this show gets done, we will have a riders meeting, and that's mandatory. So all of our riders, our athletes will be up here. The parents, whoever's with them, will be up here. We will do basically, and then we go over our rules, what we need, requirements, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll work through the schedule. So
Yeah. You got him?
Yeah, he's on there.
Sorry.
So
and then we're just gonna kind of work through the day. So we will start with our technique work. We'll start with warm ups. We'll break them up by bike size, send them out on the track just to break the track in, get warmed up for the day, and then we will we'll take a short break and get right into our technique work and spend a lot of time talking technique.
All right, let's go to the phones and talk to Delbert. Delbert, you're live with Under the Hood. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we all doing this
Perfect,
morning?
buddy. How are you?
All right. Hey, there's a Josh Hutchins has a question. I want you to look at that and answer that. Also, do these guys see electric bikes coming to the show at any time soon?
You beat me to the punch, Delbert. I was getting ready to ask the same question that was coming because of all the electric cars and everything else coming too. So great question, Delbert. So, guys,
it sounds like it's just a natural transition.
yeah. So what are you hearing about that, gentlemen? Anything yet? Or
So we've kind of had this wave of electric bikes come in, and right now it's actually the biggest move on the electric side is from KTM and Husqvarna and Gas is on the 50cc bikes, the little kid bikes, youth bikes coming in, and they're battery powered and they're adjustable. The kids can ride them for quite a while because they've designed them to be that way where the kids can stay, because the 50 age group is from 4 all the way to 8 years old. Is usually how you're on that size bike. Well, now they're battery powered. Alta was really the beginning of it. They made a full size electric bike. I actually never rode one. You rode them.
I got to ride the Alta actually out here, and then
really?
Yeah, and then B's Moto Lab, who is a KTM dealer here in
we know Brandon very well.
what is the name of that town? Anyway, I know it's in Wichita, but it's in a neighborhood. But yeah, I rode Brandon's Alta out here, and I mean, so many people are like, well, motocross is so dependent on the sound. Which, I mean, to an extent, like whenever I watch Formula E, I'll put some music on while I'm watching the races. And then obviously Formula One and Indy, the engines are their own, it's their
beast.
own. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so because of that, so many people in motorsports are afraid to transition because we're going to lose the sound.
Oh, I'm with you.
But when we lose the sound, what does that mean? We get to be closer to town.
Yeah.
This is kind of an anomaly with how close we are to the city here.
Where Bar to Bar's at,
Yeah, but imagine if we could have this in the heart of downtown, the same way that they do, the Honda IndyCar race at Long Beach.
Yep.
But imagine if we could do that every weekend.
So there was a big push for
Well, that
electric.
brings up another question, guys. Where is Bar to Bar?
In Mays, just north of
Get
town.
that address out there. Get people out there.
Yeah, we're on the corner of
Ridge and
53rd or 63rd.
63rd.
63rd and Ridge.
63rd
on
and
the
Ridge.
north end.
Right next to the drag strip.
Right next to the Kansas International Dragway. Yeah, correct.
I
Anyway,
mean, for those that have never watched motocross, it's really fun to watch. I mean, just go out there and take a gander at it. Get used to it. It's fun.
yeah,
These
we
guys
had.
really work hard to bring you an entertainment show that is just awesome.
Yeah, and motocross is a spectator sport by all means. And what's cool is much like a soccer game, you don't really have to know what's going on. You just come out, watch, and see people do some cool stuff.
I
It's
take
like a
notes of that. I was a soccer referee.
Yeah, it is. Like I
You
said, my
do have
first.
to know soccer.
Yeah, because like I said, last fall we were out here. It was the first time me to really be. I knew this was out here, but I had no idea it was so deep back behind us till then. But to watch everybody fly through the air and go, I was in awe because I'd never been around it for that part.
But further about the electric bike thing is that Alta actually had a lot of money invested into them by Harley Davidson, and then Harley did what Harley does, and they killed them.
Really?
Literally, yeah. No, they killed them. Took their battery technology and put it in the live wire and drove Alta into the ground. And now that's the Alta design is now found in the live wire, which is Harley's electric bike.
Huh.
But it is inevitable.
It's coming. Yeah.
It will come in like like Scott said with the mini bikes. The entry level bikes that are. I mean, we can't call them 50s anymore because they don't have a CC, but it's that size of bike as they electrify.
Yeah, I wonder how you're going to classify different things.
They just call them Mini E right now.
Right,
Is what
yeah,
the
Mini E.
technical class
So I
is,
think we'll start
I
going.
would say by the motor what size motor it gets put into it. You know, they're going to have amperages and voltages and other things on there they can classify them as.
Where I would not to disagree or be, a contrarian, but I think it would be easier to classify by wheel size.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's
true. But if you got somebody that's got a bigger motor in that smaller wheel size because they can handle the bike better, would that be a fair race? You know what I mean? There's going to have to be some control.
Absolutely. And that presents a new problem of regulation of how do you ensure that someone isn't racing with a cheater map?
Yeah,
and
programming or something in the battery to
right.
put more power out.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's going to be a lot of change, and it will be turbulent for sure.
Yeah.
Personally, after riding the Alta, I wish we quit racing ICE bikes right now. I want electric. Really? Oh, absolutely. They're so much fun to ride. It's like, it's crazy because you're just like, why? I can't hear it, but why is it so fun?
Yeah. Well, see, that's what we find in electric cars. Ford's making now is what impresses me more than anything. It's just instant torque.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, instant torque. You're not waiting to get it to rev it up and get the RPMs there. I mean, it's instant. Done.
And the crazy part with motocross that people you may not necessarily realize, and a lot of riders even themselves, is not understanding the rotational mass effects that's happening inside of the engine as the piston goes up and down, like we were talking at 13,000 times a minute.
Yeah.
The way that changes the dynamic of how the frame that's holding the engine flexes versus whenever it's at,
I didn't think about that either. You bring that up. That's very true.
5,000 RPM whenever you're under, torque. And so because of that, it changes the way that the motorcycle handles. Well, what happens whenever you eliminate all that internal rotating mass and you're strictly battery powered with a small, the motor, you have the battery pack, but then the actual small motor.
Yeah,
that's transforming the power.
I wonder if they'd ever get to a two-wheel bike, motor on each wheel.
I don't. They actually have hydraulic driven bikes that it's driven off the drive chain and it runs up to a hydraulic pump like under the handlebars on the triple clamp.
Yeah, and
then hydraulic hoses run down and you have a two-wheel drive bike. Yeah. They do have them. It's not in this kind of world you wouldn't run that, but a lot of the like Erzberg Rodeo, these big crazy Italian off-road races that. They blow my mind on the kind of stuff that they can do on them, and you'll see those kind of bikes.
Yeah, so it's going to, this electric world is going to be interesting how everybody transitions from your motocross to the automotive, and even the talks already in, what's going to happen with NASCAR, what's going to happen with IndyCar and all that kind of stuff.
So as we transition on a local level with the circle track cars, has there been any development with electrification or
nothing? No. I'm working right now very hard to get, there's two divisions. Well, there's really three big major divisions out there right now. It's the IMCA world, and then you've got USRA, and then you've got USMTS, and there's a few others running around too. We're still running carburetors.
Right.
I mean, carburetors in automobile world went away in 1985. What are we doing? So I've talked to all the heads of those different segments and saying, why are we not at least running fuel injection? So I'm still trying to get that base.
Is it a cost prohibitive thing?
I think it's just a transition of everybody taking the expense of getting rid of the carburetor, where all those go, and everybody spends it, from $1,000 to $1,500 on a carburetor.
Right.
But then it's also back where you talked about the mapping and be able to control that for people to not to have traction control, and have analog brakes and everything divided into that control module. Is some of it too. So it's just I don't think anybody's pushed as hard as I'm trying to push to get this fuel injection. It's the way we need to be.
Right.
And my thing is with fuel injection, if you can control that mixture, that motor is going to live that much longer.
Yeah.
So you can tell that guy, you spent $15 on a carburetor, but you're going to take that $5,000 crate motor, it's going to live twice as long.
Yeah. Well, I know we made a big adjustment when in 2009, 2010, the motocross world, all of the big size 250s and 450s went fuel injected, and the power delivery, the entire game kind of changed, and the adjustments at the pro level, you'll see them hooked up to laptops and they're making adjustments all the time, but not so much with the little bikes. They're still carbureted. But
little ones are.
Both Yamaha and KTM offer a tuner app where you can download an application onto your phone and control the mapping of your bike via Bluetooth.
Really?
Yeah. So you can.
So you guys are ahead of the game than us dirt track guys.
Yeah. But, at the same time, with dirt track racing, like you guys know what works, and it's it's not it's traditional. You know,
Yeah.
and but at the same time, that's what makes it such good racing.
Yeah.
You know, and a good tuner, you know, is just as important as a good driver.
Oh yeah, you're exactly correct on that too. Anyway, Delbert, thanks for the great questions as always. And you got anything else for these two guys or anything?
No, they're awesome. I love hearing the show, and I'm sorry that nobody's calling in today.
It happens every time Delbert. Every time we go off.
Every time you go remote, they do that to you.
Yeah, I know. Every time we go somewhere, which we love to go different places and to do this show, but I think everybody just likes to sit back and watch and listen, so that's okay.
That's all right.
Some great.
And you got the audio working awesome this morning, and the camera's great too. So
Awesome.
guys are doing a great job keeping the show going. I keep trying to get more. We're 7 short, so get out there and like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Get them going.
Please do like it both places, Facebook and YouTube. Love to like and share, and let's get this thing built up. So, Delbert, have a great holiday weekend, and as always, thanks for the call.
You guys are welcome. You guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Anyway, we're at Bar to Bar at the Mega Camp, and still got pictures going on out here. 10 o'clock is the driver meeting, driver orientation kind of thing.
Yep.
Rider.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we call
Not
him
a
the pilot, whatever. You know, we'll do just pick a name.
The jet pilot.
Yeah.
The jet pilot.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about. Like, these things essentially are rockets with a handlebar.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's because
Yeah.
and they kind of look like it too because of the way the exhaust comes out of the back, and I mean, they truly are. I mean, once you start to really master these things, and especially on a sandier course like this, you can really, it starts to feel like you are surfing.
Well, and it's a direct relation between man and machine.
Yeah.
You know, bicycle's a little bit more man than it is machine, and then cars are a little bit more machine than they are man.
Yeah.
So it's directly right up the middle.
Yep.
So I've got I don't know if we're getting pretty close to the end of the show here, so I don't know if the question I have is, say I'm out here in this event and you have how many 4 coaches?
Yep.
Okay. So who's the best coach and why?
He's going to claim it all day.
4 years.
Brent
4 years in a row.
Brent's going to claim it all day. He's already claimed it online and number ones and everything on Instagram.
Yeah, so I'll just hang up and listen.
And Brad is the defending Lap King champion from last year.
He beat me. So there's our friend Vince from Texas.
There he is right there.
Yeah, he's all jacked up over there.
He's listening.
So Vince developed this application for your phone with a little GPS tracking unit that you put on top of your helmet.
Okay.
And you don't have to have a live timing and scoring system that they run at the races. Like here for all the AMA events, they have trackside with My Laps, I believe is what it's called. And so on just like a regular practice day or a session or at a race, you know, whatever, you can run this thing called the Lap King. And it's as simple as going out riding with the GPS tracking on. Whenever you get off of the track, you connect the tracker to your phone, and then it uploads your lap times from the track that you're at. Well, last year Vince came up and we ran a Lap King lap jam between all of the amateur riders, and then myself, Brad, Brent, John Paul, and there was somebody else. Did you race?
I didn't do it. I was organizing it.
Yeah,
I was.
So there was like 5 or
charge.
6 of us that were pro level riders that we got together, and we cut the back half of the track off and just did this front half right here.
It was a short 30-second lap. It was
somewhere in there, yeah.
The
sprint.
back
It's hard
half
to
is
keep
your
up.
track. What
Dude,
are they
I
doing?
mean,
They're just
sabotage.
cutting you out of it right there.
If we would have had the back half, they wouldn't have stood a chance.
Yeah, so now I am on your side.
So, okay, so here's now with all applications and digital devices, sometimes there are hiccups. So what happened was we all went out and we did our moto together, and we all had our tracking devices on, and at the same exact time that we were out there riding, there was a satellite that had went down.
I don't remember.
No joke.
This.
No,
I don't remember this.
No joke, because there was a few people that were having problems with their tracking, and the GPS tracking was not operating on my unit while we were out doing our laps. So then I had to go back out after they had already established their times. Everybody was ripping; they had their times, and it was really tight. And we went out, and you know, I'm like out there by myself doing the hot lap, or what do they call it? The Super Pole. I was doing my Super Pole lap, and it was a big production, and Courtney's out there taking photos, and Brad and Brent. I mean, they're cheering me on. We're all cheering each other on.
Cheering might have been different words used, but yeah.
They were showing me who was number one.
And I get that told me a lot too.
Yeah. And so they gave me, what did they give me? 3 laps. Yeah, they gave me 1 warm-up lap, and then I got to ride at 2 laps at full pace. And then we come off, in the tracking, I pull out my phone, and as it's uploading, we're all standing around and watching my phone as it's loading the time.
And we have video of it.
Yeah,
of us all watching it.
And then it was 1/10 of a second that Brad beat me.
1/10.
1/10. Yes. So if you can imagine in ghost games and simulators, if you can imagine the parallel.
That was the squeeze of a clutch somewhere.
Yeah.
That was just that little
tiny
bit.
one knob slip of the difference.
Yeah.
On all this track, Brad beat me by 1/10, and then it was a big hoopla whenever we
Still
all
to this
saw
day,
that.
you should see the group text. The group text now is just
hasn't ended.
Call you
yet.
1/10 or anything.
And it sucks because I can't come back and get redemption. I just broke my leg a month and a half ago, and so I'm out. But don't worry.
Yeah, that was coincidental.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, we had the same thing drag racing. We have a deal called Giggy. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Just you put it on the dash, Bluetooth your phone, and you don't have to come out and run a drag strip and come out and give you your lap times, 60-foot times, and all that kind of stuff too. Same kind of thing.
So it translates over to cars too. The Lap King does. It doesn't matter. There are people that use it. Boats, jet skis, airplanes, side by sides.
Really?
Yeah. You can track it. If you make a lap, you can create a lap and drop pins, and then
bicycles, whatever, you name it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you're doing laps on something, you can use the Lap King application. And it would work perfect for guys, that are training and testing and figuring out. The only thing that it doesn't do is segment times. So there are other applications that do that. So if you're trying to figure out, between turn 1 and turn 3, I'm dialed there, but then coming around 4, I suck there. Well, the Lap King's not going to help you there. It's going to help you with your whole lap time.
Gotcha.
So you can do that. It's worth it. It's an affordable application.
Yeah, and the whole idea is it's so you can do a lot of this kind of stuff with your buddies. You know what I mean? Kind of a ego, kind of.
Obviously, you just saw the glow on Brad's face over a 10th of a second.
Right. The back half of the track, that don't count.
I know.
A track's a track.
Yep.
You can't just cut up the track.
Couldn't agree more. I'm glad you're on my side.
Yeah, this kind of stuff goes on everywhere. It's the same with the dirt track. It's the same with the drag strip over there. Everything else too. It's got to have the fun. You can't have fun with it, we're in trouble, right?
Absolutely.
It's competition, and whether it's competition, whenever we're actually green flag to checkered flag, or it's competition over, who can do the coolest wheelie or whatever it is, or what we like to do. We do this thing tomorrow in the Innovative MX Olympic Games,
which is the awards provided by Mel Hambelton.
Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to do a slow race, which is I am the defending world champion of slow racing.
Yeah.
So the catch about slow racing is we mark off 100 yards or something like it. It's not even
that far. Yeah.
So we have a starting line and then a finish line, and it's roped off to where you can't zigzag, and whoever can get to the finish line last without putting your feet down, without killing the bike, without going outside of the boundaries of your lane, that's who wins. Yeah. And what's wild is the first year.
I was just getting ready to bring it up.
The first year that we did the mega camp here, I was talking all this game about how I have beat everybody, and it was whenever I was growing up, trained with national champions Ryan Dungey, Trey Kennard, the Wharton brothers, so on and so forth. Sorry, let me finish telling the story.
Yeah, okay. Get the story down. We got stuff to do. We got to get this going.
I was talking all this game, and then after it was bracket racing, and after everything was done, there was a little kid that was like 5 years old on a little Cobra 50 that ended up winning against all the other entries.
The youngest kid in the camp.
And then he had to race me in the slow race, and it was neck and neck. And see, the thing is, I don't really flex until we get at the very end, and I'll make people think that they've got it in the bag.
Yeah.
And then I'll start coasting. As soon as we get towards the end, whenever the pressure's on, that's whenever I unleash my insane balance. And I'll just sit there on the bike, just barely, because I raced BMX a lot whenever I was growing up.
Oh, did you?
So I've got that understanding of how to balance the bike on the starting gate. And so I use that technique, and then you just watch people unravel. Whenever I just pull up to the stop, and I'm like,
just stop. Yep.
here I am. But yeah, that's it.
And this kid almost had him right at the end, and then the kid got a little squirrely and fell over, and then he rode through. And I mean, it was less than a bike length.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so that's a lot of we do a lot of fun stuff here too.
You gotta have fun. Yeah.
Gotta have fun, and we get to have the competition and the fun and the training and all of it, and then the parents. What time is it?
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock. So some of them are already cracking open cold ones. and it's just a 3-day fun fest. And, but we get to have a lot of training involved, and everybody learns, has a good time. It's a really cool package.
And now the boss is here.
Yeah.
The boss is here. She's in charge now.
Scott's wife is over here.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Morris, wrap it up.
Anyway, the hour's blown by fast, gentlemen. I can't thank you enough for letting us come out here and be on the show with us, and learned a lot from you guys. Growing this great partnership between Mel Hambelton Ford Racing and Bar to Bar. Bruce has been great to work with and stuff, and Scott, great to work with you guys. And nice to meet you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can't wait for more relationship things we can do out here at Bar to Bar to help the riders get going. And of course, we want to sell the hell out of Hoosier tires and VP or Sunoco or Renegade fuels, whatever it is the riders want to have from that part too. So again, guys, I wish we had some more time to go, but I saw everybody pointing at the watch just saying, we got to get this show on the road. Love to sit here and talk to you for another hour. That's for sure. So
we appreciate it.
Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll talk to you next Saturday.
I'm a Lawrenceit now.
Gotcha.
This is quite the setup you have here. It's